strategic areas, the strategic heights in East Ladakh, and particularly the lake area and the Galwan Valley. Therefore, I don't think so that India would, as a matter of fact, is going to fight the war. But yes, as you said that some of the aerial shots which were claimed, both, Chinese said they were fired by the Indian soldiers, and India said they were fired by the Chinese. But indeed, I would say that it is from the India. Why? Because there was a lot of debate at New Delhi, Army headquarters, and at the level of Chief of Defence Staff, that who, as a matter of fact, stopped Indian soldiers to fire. Once in June, 20 Indian soldiers, they were killed through the manual means for that matter. Therefore, Indian must have provoked this situation to use it in their own benefit. But the Chinese side is again very calm, very cool, but consolidating, and indeed increasing the claim with each passing day. Reason being that this Ladakh and this particular area is very, very important on so many aspects, because these are the strategic areas on many aspects. One, that it is very closer to the Karakoram Pass, and you know that this China-Pakistan economic corridor is the one aspect that the closer Indian wanted to get closer to it, that was a threat for the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And this is the most important leg of Belt and Road Initiative, number one. Number two, there is a very, very important aspect that is strategic also and that is economic also. That is the Tibetan area. Tibetan area is not only the height, but as a matter of fact, it is the 5th largest water reservoir, which indeed this Tibetan area is providing water to Brahmaputra, to Ganges, and even for that matter to the Indus water system. Therefore, the Indian clash, Indian strategy, right from the Nehru, it has lot many, you can say that, visions. And the Chinese know they are countering all, and this strategic move of the China in this region, as a matter of fact, is going to do a lot for the Indians, and India cannot afford a war. Yes, very important question. You said that what is the option left for Pakistan in case there is a physical fight between China and India. I think Pakistan is at an advantageous position compared to what it was 1965. The people in the Indian occupied Kashmir, they are fully charged. Despite 1 year of siege, despite 1 year of curfew, I think India has not been able to achieve the objective it wanted to. I mean, it could not subdue the Kashmiris. The Kashmiri youth particularly, they are more ready to fight against the Indian forces, and 900,000 Indian security forces could not do anything against the Kashmiris. And let me say that out of 1.3 million Indian forces, they have already committed 900,000 Indian security forces in Kashmir, which what is left with the India to fight against China? So they will be defensive. But for the Pakistan, definitely that is going to be a position, that is going to be a stage, that is going to be an opportunity moment for the Pakistan in case there is a war. In case there is a limited conflict in the region.
I really would want to put this question to you and as well as to my guests in the studio. And that is about the impact on South Asia and in particular on Pakistan if something happens. And what would be the future of CPEC? Because when you look at the area of Daulat Beg and then you go up towards Siachen, and because that is where the entire, the beginning of the CPEC is. So if you're looking at that area, for example, if there is a tension there, or if, for example, God forbid, there's a war going on or something of that sort, obviously, sir, Pakistan is going to get affected, South Asia in particular is going to get affected, and the future of CPEC. Quick comment, sir.
Very small and comment that number one, Pakistan is not going to stay aloof. Number one, number two, India overall. You said about the South Asia. In South Asia, India is losing on many aspects. Maybe it is the Nepal border. Maybe even I say the Bhutan, Maldives for that matter, Sri Lanka for that matter. I think Indians are in a big problem. They are losing all the important countries in this region, and that is good, advantageous for the Pakistan.
Jiva, impacts on South Asia.
Well, I think if this happens, there is a probability that whatever India calls itself as a potential power, it can get exposed. One thing. Secondly, I think Pakistan is not going to get into it
Aren't we really underestimating the military strength of India, or is it really null and void?
I think it's not about underestimating. It's about choosing the theater of the war. Chinese will not choose the theater of the war which the Indians want they should choose. They won't fight, there won't be a fist fighting, or there won't be a fighting from one hill to another cliff. It will be a fight where, as you mentioned earlier, you target your adversary where it is weak. You never target your adversary where it is strong. So I think the Chinese have...
They really galvanized their soldiers, and the strength has been increased as
they
well.
have this, the Chinese have this power, but I think where the Indians will be hit, it will not be the ground. The communication channels will be disturbed. They will be targeted so that India feels the loss, but at the same time the soldiers don't die. There is a probability of this. The way they didn't use the guns and they killed their men, and the entire country was in a shock and awe. So there is a probability they can damage them economically. For example, if this 5G technology they don't share them. For example, when the Indians are going for decoupling with China, so it means that the Indians are going to be hit because they are not going to get the advantages of the 5G. So this is where
this is the new scenario. This is the new name of the game. Technology matters. Technology means a lot. Sir?
Well, 2-3 things. Number one, Indian Chief of Army Staff himself made it very clear that the resolution of the issue does not lie in war. It lies in peace and peace negotiations. So this is where India stands at the present time. But they will continue something here and there that will keep keep the hope alive somewhere in the hearts of Indian people that one day we may be able to deal with China with this with a swift, tough hand. But that's not going to happen. China will remain a supreme power. There will never be a match between the two countries. Chinese technology will continue to grow. Chinese military strength will continue to grow. India remains mired into a very, very modest developing country, and this is it. When you look at India, that it's a developing country. Well, how much development have they really made in the last 72 years? They are assembling. They are still a country. This is in a nutshell. They are still a society and a country and a state assembling. They are at an assembly stage in their pace of progress. This is one thing. Number two, as far as the overall desire of India to become a world power, well, for that you have I gave you earlier an example. You have to be the very best in all areas, otherwise you can never be a world power. China is a very good example, and still the Chinese modestly, as I said, claim that they are still a developing nation, and I sometimes smile at their claim. And number three, and that's the last point, Pakistan has to make strides in military technology as well as in other technologies, and we really can do that. A lot of people say in Pakistan we have a lot of problems. We don't have a lot of problems. We still have a modest, limited, reasonable amount of population.
All right.
And similarly, we do have a lot of room to grow. India may be choosing a bad enemy in the months and years ahead.
Well, let's see.
Pakistan might become a very tough nut for them.
Let's see. The coming days will be very interesting, and the coming months will be even more. But thank you very much, Pirzada Saab, for your presence. It was a pleasure having you, sir. And thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for your presence as well. And that's all we have for this hour. But interestingly, this story is developing as we see it. We hope and pray nothing happens there, because at the end of the day, this region can get affected, because we are talking about not 2 but 3 nuclear powers in that particular area. And when you look at the borders, it's India on one side, it's China on the other, and Pakistan on the third side. So things should be diffused here, and it should have a proper logical conclusion. Anyway, I'll see you again. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.
Islamabad, the capital city, bustles with politicians and business activity. It stretches out around the foothills of the Himalayas. To many, Islamabad is just that, lush green views in a modern, urbanized capital that houses politicians, diplomats and the Pakistani elite. But it is while driving through the stucco gate that the line between urbanization and traditionalism blurs us into an eclectic blend of the past and the present. The alleyways that bend through the village hold remnants of a rather colorful, regal history. A tourist site today, the village was once a garden resort known for its natural springs. The historical significance of the city of Islamabad is unknown to many, and for this reason, the Capital Development Authority preserved Saidpur, a Mughal-era village located within the capital city. Through the periods of history that Saidpur has existed, it has been influenced by civilizations such as the Gandhara, Greek, Buddhist, Mughal, Ashoka and British colonialism. Saidpur village is said to be 300 years old, but the elders argue it is even older than most believe it to be. Saidpur's name originates from Sultan Said Khan. He was the son of the Ghakkar chief of the Pothohar region during Mughal Emperor Babur's reign, Sultan Sarang Khan. The village was gifted by Sultan Said Khan to his daughter, who married the Mughal Emperor Jahangir, the son of Emperor Akbar.
मैं शांति से पैदा हुआ तो इस गांव का नाम सैदपुर था। उस पहले जो नाम था वो राजा सैद खान हमारा बड़का था। उसने इलाका फतह किया। उसने फतेहपुर बावली नाम था, गुरुद्वारा भी था, मस्जिद भी थी। हम लोगों के साथ एक दूसरे के साथ प्यार करते थे।
Later, the village was recognized as a pilgrimage site by the Hindu commander Raja Man Singh. In 2006, the CDA began remodeling project of the Saidpur village. The French government provided technical assistance in the remodeling procedure. The purpose of the preservation project was to give visitors a taste of the multicultural, multifaceted heritage of Pakistan. The initial cost of this cultural project at the time was estimated at 400 million rupees. French ambassador Régis de Bellonnet was very supportive of this initiative and invited French architect Max Robert. Robert gave his expertise to develop remodeling methods that would not only give the necessary modern upgrades, but also preserve the natural impact of the village. Extensive preservation work was done to restore historical sites such as the Hindu Mandir and Sikh Gurdwara. Mud houses were given an uplift to improve aesthetics. Workers toiled to conserve the traditional atmosphere by restoring stone walls and adding haystacks and horse-drawn carts. Today, Saidpur preserves the historical face of the Pothohar region. Boasting old rural roots with a modern edge, Saidpur is an
Good evening, Assalamu alaikum. You're watching PTV World. I'm Fahim Bangish with the headline news for this hour. Prime Minister Imran Khan takes strict notice of a horrific incident of rape with a woman near motorway last night and a minor girl in Karachi. Prime Minister instructs the concerned police chiefs to apprehend the culprits and ensure that they get the strictest possible punishment. Prime Minister Imran Khan inaugurates Russian digital account for overseas Pakistanis. The initiative will enable overseas Pakistanis to open accounts in any bank of the country easily and facilitate them in fund transfers and paying utility bills. Federal government decides the Trading Corporation of Pakistan will also import wheat along with private sector to ensure ample supply of commodity in the country. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi urges the SCO members to work together to address resurgence of fascist ideologies and violent nationalism anywhere in the world, especially in the region. Uzbekistan appreciates and acknowledges Pakistan Army's contribution to peace and stability in the region. Pakistan says India must accept the fact that India-Pakistan question will remain on the agenda of UN Security Council till the resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute as per the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. 5 French-made multi-role Rafales inducted into the Indian Air Force. French Defense Minister attends the ceremony in Ambala. Pakistan Cricket Board has announced the squads of the 6 association sides for this year's National T20 Cup beginning 30th of September. That's all for now. For details and live streaming, log on to our website world.btv.com.pk. You can find us on our Facebook page with the name of BTV World and follow us on Twitter @WorldBTV. Thank you for joining us.
The ancient city of Taxila is the heart of stonework in Pakistan. This art, which has been preserved and practiced for centuries, can be seen on many major landmarks of the country. Notably, the Pietra Dura work in the Lahore Fort's Sheesh Mahal. These stone products take days to complete and require immense precision and skill from the craftsmen. The final products are perfect for souvenirs, gifts and decoration pieces, each depicting the richness of Pakistani culture at its best. Camel skin and ivory craft are trademarks of Multan's handicraft repertoire. camel skin is cleaned, dried and mounted onto molds which can be of any shape desired. Multicolored lacquer painting is then used to ornament the molds, which in the end bear a Mughal or Persian feel. Ivory is crafted into pens, chess sets, jewelry and other accessories such as keychains by the expert craftsman. Such detailed work, while being extravagant, is indeed a feat to achieve, and craftsmen of Multan produce beauty with their work which is worthy of global admiration. The enchanting arts and crafts of Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. The incident involving gang rape today on the motorway is clearly reprehensible and should be condemned unconditionally. There cannot be two questions on this issue, and there shouldn't be. But the question is, who's to blame? And will we move on from the blame? Will the perpetrators of this crime be brought to justice? As a society today, after the hue and cry settles down, will things change for us as a society, or will tomorrow be another woman facing the same issue, same problems, dealing with the same trauma that happened to someone today? That is the question today, the question of, as a society, do we accept the responsibility? Do we need, and how do we move on and change things for us? And will it change at all? Let's talk about all of that today. I have with me Arif Chaudhry, who is a senior lawyer and legal expert. Thank you for joining us today. Asim Shaukat Ali, spokesperson, Punjab government. Thank you for joining us today. Dr. Nisar Ahmed Chima, who is an MNA with PMLN. Thank you for being with us. And also Kamaluddin Tipu, who is a former IG police. Thank you for joining us today. Ji. Arif Sahab, I don't think that anybody can question the incident that happened today. And the fact that there can't be two opinions on a woman who's gone through this trauma. Unfortunately, in our society, there seem to be. For the lack of a better word, there is a controversial opinion being thrown around, and we are facing another debate on it. This is an issue where there should be no debate on. I'm sure you agree with that. The question is, for me, whether as a woman we are facing, as a society also, we're facing this issue today. Will things ever change? Are we moving towards a change, or are we just going to deal with isolated incidents and try to, deal with those issues? Or as a reform, as a movement, are we going to move further and make it a safe place for women? When are we going to make it a safe place for women?
Mahrukh, it's very pathetic. Simply saying these words, we condemn and reprehensible. That's not sufficient, because, as a matter of fact, what I see, the society, instead of making any progress towards development of minorities, maybe they are gender-related minorities, or they are otherwise racial minorities or religious minorities. Society as a whole, I don't think that we are moving towards some positive goals, or we are trying to create a good record.
Right.
As far as women in Pakistan is concerned, every single minute we see that instead of making them strong, we are trying to make them very weak and very vulnerable. Even this concept, second sex, that they should not be allowed to participate as a full person in the mainstream of the society. That is something which is the root cause. Because all these things are happening. Why? Because woman is not allowed to interact in a way as man is interacting in society. All those things which are available to man are not available to woman. And the other aspect, which is very, very cruel on the part of those who are responsible, they are always shifting the responsibility. You know what happened? When this police tortures started unearthing, they found a solution that don't take these cameras inside and don't take these mobiles, so you couldn't have the pictures. Instead of curbing the crime, you curb the information. That's our style. And instead of taking the responsibility, you shift the responsibility. If a case comes to the police, they will say, no, it's not within our territory. It's somebody else. And the pathetic aspect is, if somebody is dying, even the doctors, instead of taking the responsibility, will say, no, it's not my job, it's somebody else's job. Then I don't feel that this society deserves to be called a society when the passions, when the feelings and the pangs of a dying person, and even this is worse than dying, the rape, gang rape, Why the shifting of responsibility? Who has responsibility? The state responsibility, that if a woman is traveling on a motorway, she should be protected. Where was the police? How anybody could do this? It is motorway, it's a highway. So if they are not safe, I don't think that anybody can claim that we are administering justice in this society, and we have brought a rule of law. Neither there is rule of law, nor there is justice. Everybody is unsafe, and every coming day, it is very unfortunate that we don't find anything very promising and very optimistic.
Right. So, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Asim Shaukat Ali Saab. Ji, Asim Saab, who are we going to attribute this responsibility to? I'm sure that sorry, there is a problem with the call. Ji, Arif Saab, what about we talk about the responsibility. You know, there are lots of structural issues also. If we talk about, you know, we can't take this incident and deal with it as an isolated incident. You know, I'm sure you're aware also, I've also seen, you know, I've been here long enough to know that an issue comes up, it picks up speed, the hue and cry dies down and things don't change. So as a lawyer, you know, how do you think there's a dearth of laws? There is an issue of implementation. There is an issue of governance? Where is the main issue here?
Lack of sensitivity of society, the government and the people who should be responsible to take care of all these segments of society, particularly the weaker one. You know, when you say that, you know, this, you know, the woman, they cannot travel alone, or when you say that, you know, instead of taking the responsibility and saying we are very sorry what happened, it is very unfortunate, and those responsible, you know, who should have taken care of it shall be held responsible. If the responsible person says that, you know, it was the responsibility of the woman, victim, that she should have enough petrol, so how can we defend such a situation, and, you know, how can we be called a civilized society? Because the responsibility always lies upon those shoulders, because the social covenant or social agreement which we out of which the society has come up, that we have surrendered our rights. If that woman, she couldn't take arms.
Right, exactly.
That is because she has surrendered her right. Otherwise, she would have been taking arms. And, you know, if this is the situation, then naturally, I would request the government to please, not only the government, all those ulemas and all those responsible who are always talking about parda.
Right.
Sir, it is not only parda. Please take care of this issue. Be sensitive to this issue.
I will come back to you. That issue, we will come back to that also. I'm going to go to Asim Shaukat Ali Sahab. Ji, Asim Sahab, who is responsible? Who do you attribute this responsibility to of actually protecting the women in society, protecting the weaker sex as it's called? What does the Punjab government say about that? Do you take responsibility? Who takes responsibility today?
Thank you very much, Mahrukh. First of all, I would like to comment this brutal and pathetic and immoral incident. This is really very sad that it has happened. But the problem is that perhaps this was the reason that few days back you noticed a few bureaucratic reshuffles in the system, because they were constantly, complaints were being received that crime rate was increasing. Anyhow, as far as this sad event is concerned, Chief Minister has taken a personal notice. He has issued special instructions to the institutions concerned, and he has also ordered to utilize all the available resources, available means, including technology, to catch the criminals as early as possible and to give them an exemplary punishment. And he's taking personal notes from the officers involved. And today he also had a meeting with the Minister of Law, and he ordered he gave him some important instructions about this current event. So continuously efforts are being made to improve the law and order conditions in the society, in the province. And you see, it should not be connected with the, what should I say, empowerment of the women. This is a crime that can take place. It should not take place, but that can take place in every developed world, in every part of the developed world also. So, but it should not happen, and we are all after it to catch the criminals and to make them an exemplary punishment.
But Shaukat sir, there is a general, I mean, it may be perhaps, you know, it may be a false impression, but a lot of people were under the impression that when you talk about the motorway, especially, this is, you're safe there when you're driving. And when issues like the time when you're driving, or whether you're alone, whether, you know, you're taking the safety precautions, all of that, those issues come into play, then the real issue, don't you think it gets sidetracked, it gets diluted And that is the main issue, whether women are protected or are under protection. Because in this, we can't just, as far as younger children are concerned also. If we talk about all these other issues that are being now debated, that are being unfortunately, very unfortunately, have now become the subject of debate, isn't it taking away from the real issue here?
No, as I have just said, that it should not be connected with the women empowerment or the protection of women. It is. It should be taken as a crime. Crime should be controlled.
But do you think that this is?
It is just to give another dimension to the crime.
Incident? Do you see this as an isolated? You're saying that you can either look at it as an isolated incident, or you can look at it as part of a larger picture where whether our women are safe in this society or not. And you're saying it shouldn't be related to that.
No, I am saying that these are different dynamics for the woman in the metropolitan and different dynamics for the woman in the village, in the countryside. Society is evolving. If you see in cities, women are quite empowered and developed. But I just want to say this, as to me it seems that you are trying to relate it or connect it to something gender specific. It should not be a gender specific thing. This is a crime.
Let me make it simple for you. Let me make it very simple.
Right.
I'll ask you a simple question. Do you think women are safe in our society today? Whether it's evolving or not?
Mahrukh, we should always try to make them more to protect them in a better way. It should be our effort. But I am just saying, crime can happen. It should not happen. It has happened, and we are after it. But again, I am unable to understand why you are connecting it to why you are making it gender specific.
I'm saying that if tomorrow I or another woman chooses to travel from any other, let's say if I choose to travel from Islamabad to Murree, for example, and I choose to drive alone at 11 o'clock at night, will I be safe, or are the odds that I will not be?
Okay, well, nobody will advise you to travel alone, but we are trying, or you know our specific societal fabric, that we have never encouraged women to travel alone. But gradually society is evolving as education is spreading, as awareness is spreading. Again, I would say in cities, in metropolitan, situation is different. In countryside, situation is different. There are some areas where females, women are more developed, more enlightened, more aware, and they know the law and they can protect themselves. But I just want to say the same crime can happen, same means a crime can happen against the men also. Like, it is not like that crime is happening only against women. This is what I want to say.
Okay.
Crime is happening, it is not happening only against women. This is what I am saying.
Right, okay. Asim Saab, I will just come back to you. I am going to go to Dr. Nisar Ahmed Seema. Nisar Saab, how do you see this incident? As who do you think is responsible? Who is going to bear the responsibility? Do you think that the perpetrators right now, of course, the same question to you right now, of course, it is an issue. Right now, of course, there are notices are being taken across the board. But will it lead to an actual change, in your opinion, or not? Do you think that as far as police is concerned, do you think that perhaps this is something that's telling us that we need to perhaps move towards a reform more swiftly? What's your take on this?
Well, Mahrukh, I would humbly submit that this shameful incident should not be taken as an isolated one. It is a true reflection of the worst kind of governance, the worst kind of lawlessness which the whole nation is witnessing at the moment. It is a reflection of the alarming increase in the overall crime rate in the country. And there's an Arabic saying, and that is that Ad-nas wala deen mahrukh. The people follow the rulers. The rulers are actually, they are the trendsetters. And, it is not only one institution which is to be blamed. The whole system is actually to be blamed for that. And first of all, the rulers themselves, in the presence of the present rulers, what can you expect? accept such shameful incidents, these heinous crimes. Nobody is accountable to anybody, and there's such a lawlessness. There's no example. I mean, it is unprecedented lawlessness at the moment in the country, which we are witnessing.
What do you think is the cause for this, according to you, unprecedented lawlessness in the society at this time?
Yeah, it is yes, and nobody is accountable to anyone. Everybody, I mean, thinks that he or she is above law. I mean, nobody's accountable to anyone in the country at the moment. There's such a bad type of lawlessness that there is no example in our history.
Right, okay. Nisar Sahab, I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Kamaluddin Tipu Sahab, who is a former IG police. Tipu Sahab, as far as the issue of, as far as the issue of culpability is concerned, when you talk about, and there is a lot of talk about accountability at this time, as far as the police itself is concerned, because, you have been a former IG, you're a former IG yourself, how do you see the issue of responsibility at this time? Do you think that when we talk about accountability, there are systemic failures? Do you think that the laws are, it's also a part of the larger problem when we talk about police reform, law reform? How do you see things?
Thank you. First of all, I was listening to the spokesperson of Punjab government and also Chima Saab. I won't blame this on the governance issues or the government. This can happen in any government. It happens anywhere in the world. So this is a crime, very heinous crime that should be condemned. The thing is that when a crime is committed, how we handle that is also very important. And unfortunately, I have seen on the social media blaming the victim. I think it's very bad. It's the people who commit rape. They are sick in mind. It has nothing to do with the dress of women. It has nothing to do with how somebody is conducting itself. There is famous hadith that, going from Medina to Makkah fully loaded in gold ornaments and nothing will happen. That should be the ideal society, but these kind of crimes happen. How it is handled after the crime has been committed, I think this is very important. And some of the statements which has come blaming the victim for why they have done this. There is no law in Pakistan that a woman cannot travel at night. The point is that a crime has been committed. Instead of blaming why you were there, why this dress was, why you were wearing this dress, why there was no petrol, why there was the car broke down, I think these are the things is blaming the victim. And it also, when you talk like this, the victim starts blaming themselves. It's a psychological trauma for the whole family. They won't be the same again. So I think that this should stop, and they should seriously investigate and hold the persons responsible to justice. The other thing I will like to point out,
as far as Asim Saab is concerned, he was saying that this should be looked at as an isolated incident and not in the larger context of whether it involves women being safe or it involves a systemic failure, or do we need to explore where we've gone wrong as a society? Do you agree with that? Do you think it's an isolated incident, or do you think that it points to a larger problem in our society?
Yeah, it is. I think these incidents happen, but this is also, I think, a societal issue.
Because he's saying that these things happen, these incidents unfortunately also happen in the developed world, and that is true. But the question is that you yourself have just said the social media uproar has, and also the debate, making this incident an issue of debate itself also, has indicated a larger problem in the society. Isn't that true?
This is very true. I mean, if somebody is isolated place, you don't have to, make use of that thing. And just because somebody is there and there is an opportunity. So I think it is a societal issue. Yes.
And the way that, I don't think that there can be two opinions about what happened.
Yes, that's right. But I just want to point out one thing, that there was also, they say that there was a phone call made and there was no response. I must say that recently lot of highways and motorways, they have been handed over to the motorway police without giving any staff, and they are just expanding, and they have opened the motorway without seeing to it that is there anybody available there to enforce the law on the roads. Unfortunately, that's not happening. Even I met one of the motorway persons from the Lahore to Multan highway. Multan, there was no actually facilities there, and the law enforcement, they had to move people from some other beats. So it compromises, the law enforcement other places. So unless and until there are proper infrastructure enforcement and other facilities like petrol pumps and other, areas for the facilitation of the commuters, unless and until they are ready, I think they should not start these motorways and highways. And before giving any highway and motorway to the motorway police, I think they should, first of all, the government should ensure that the sufficient number of law enforcement personnel are posted there. So I think this is also one of the weaknesses which should be looked into.
Right, okay. Thank you so much, Kamaluddin Tipu Sahab. I'll come back to you. I'm going to go back to Asim Shaukat Ali Sabji. Asim Sahab, if you were hearing what Tipu Sahab was saying, what's your take on this? That as far as the motorway is concerned, as far as the highways are concerned, does the Punjab police know that these are undercapacitated, or whoever's handling this, that they are not, they don't have the manpower that's required, and therefore, this is a very important point, that when she tried to call the emergency, she couldn't reach anyone, so there was no one to help.
Yes, Mahrukh. Two things. First, I would like to respond to Cheema Sahab, as he said these sort of crimes are unprecedented in Pakistan, in the society in Punjab. So I should just remind him that we should not forget Model Town incident, where government itself was involved, and everything was being watched on media cameras. It was a ball-to-ball commentary, running commentary, and still we are waiting for the justice to be done, and it is in the courts. Now coming to Kamaluddin Saab's comments, yes, I agree, he is quite right that when you increase the infrastructure, so you should also increase the head count, which is an need of the hour, and I take it as a positive suggestion, and I will definitely convey it to the concerned ministry that if infrastructure is expanding, and if we will not increase the head count of the law enforcing agencies, and there will not be enough people deployed on the highways and motorways, then yes, there will be an increased probability of these sort of events. Yes, I agree with him.
You agree with him, but if there has been any action taken against people, whoever's responsible for not having anybody there at the time, when the emergency call was made, for not having any available help at that time? Do you know if there's been any action taken? Do you know if there is an investigation under progress? What's happening there?
Yes, definitely two things have been highlighted. It has just happened. The instructions I was listening today from the Chief Minister, it was very clear about those to take action against those security personnel who were found negligible of their duties, who neglected their duties, and it is ordered that strict action will be taken.
To be there, or was there an issue with was anybody indeed even deployed there at that time?
Sorry?
I'm saying, was anybody deployed there at that time to man that emergency station where the call was made?
I think it will become clear in a day or two, because investigations have just started, and very serious concern is being shown on such investigations from the top level in the province. So it will become clear in a day or two that where a negligence was made, and why nobody was available on the spot, and he or the department will definitely be punished.
Right, okay, I will come back to you. I'm going to go to Arif Chaudhary sir. Arif sir, one of the things Kamaluddin Tipu Sahab said, was that as far as, Asim Sahab said, I think when he was talking about whether this government or not, of course there's always that debate. But the point is, it's a very relevant question when we talk about the blame, when we talk about bringing, the offenders, the perpetrators of any crime to justice. And unfortunately, that is when the failures in our judicial system come into play.
Mahrukh, one thing is very important, which should be taken care of, and we should attend to it very seriously. We can easily, in a very cursory manner, give an example of developed countries that such things, such incidents are also happening over there and can happen over there. But none of them refers to immediate reaction of those who are responsible. First of all, if such an incident happens in a developed country, the person who is responsible, and who is responsible? The man at the helm of affairs, the top man, he would have resigned, which never happens here. Neither he resigns, nor anybody asks him to resign. That, if we have to hold an inquiry, please you step aside, so that inquiry should be impartial, transparent, independent, and every thing should come to, us. But similarly, this situation, when we talk about, these incidents, instead of going to the crux of the matter and to the deep roots of, attitude of responsible persons and society, we start, blaming each other. One person, one party will blame others. Chima Saab gave his own example, and then the government spokesman, he referred to those incidents, in model town. There's no doubt about that all those incidents should not have taken place in this society, because, and when you are saying that, people, my London friend said, people are now thinking that they're above law. It starts from the top, not from the bottom. When, the people who are at the top, they consider themselves that, they are not vulnerable and they are not, they
are above the law, then everyone
they are above law. So these people, the culprits, the perpetrators of such crime, they do feel. And, another very sad aspect of this issue is that instead of, curbing these issues and, this kind of incidents, when they are not properly, attended to, then there is a rise in that, Because prior to that, we had never heard of any such incident on highways. Now, when you were saying this, I was feeling very sorry about this condition when you said that, can I travel? Yes, and the government spokesman said, no, I don't think that a woman. Why? Then what are you for? Why are we paying taxes? We are paying very heavy taxes and toll on the motorways. So the IG police, why shouldn't he resign? He should have immediately resigned. And why should the government not be, put to task? The provincial government and those responsible where, these things were happening. All this stuff should be, brought to surface and brought to light. And, once for all, we should consider, what happens. All these incidents when happen, and you were rightly saying that, there's a hype, there's an uproar, once or twice. The one who has suffered will never get justice, because if you reach to the culprits, the perpetrators, they will be so influential, and the system would be so weak in, that they will go scot-free.
Right, that's what I'm talking about, the system. But the system doesn't only, unfortunately, when we talk about it, means the police. It also means the justice system.
No, justice system also. But, immediately,
Of course, that's true. But what's your take on this? I mean, as a lawyer, as a member of, being practicing law for so long, and your experience, what about the justice system? Because when we await, when we await people coming, bringing people to justice, when there's such a long wait, then what happens? We lose as a society. We suffer.
The justice system we are, right now faced with in Pakistan. Frankly speaking, there is no justice system. Either you are talking about criminal justice system or civil justice. Criminal is more important, you know, and equally important is the civil justice, because if on civil side, you know, the litigation prolongs and you don't get the results, so it results into criminal, you know, incidents. You know, people start taking law into their hands, and you know, all these things always are discussed. Even the Chief Justice are at the top, who, you know, the Chief Justice of Pakistan, whosoever takes office, he will fix his responsibility, you know, priorities, and say, you know, we are going to deal with this backlog, and you know, but all this will be, you know, just in newspapers, and nothing will happen. And as far as the government is concerned, whose basic responsibility is to administer justice, because the firmest pillar of good governance is the firmest pillar. Administration of justice is the firmest pillar of good governance. If you have to provide good governance, so please ensure that you are giving justice to the people. And government, you know, they don't take this responsibility. You know, as far as infrastructure is concerned, as far as you know, providing all those basic necessities to the courts, and then you know, reinforcing the police system and the prosecution. Even we don't, as I mentioned to you, that we don't have prosecutors here in Islamabad.
Like you're saying, you don't have prosecutors, and you know, we saw what Kamaluddin Tipu Saab said. He said that as far as the motorways are concerned, highways are concerned, sometimes they're not, you know, they're undercapacitated, they don't have enough people, and then they open them. Still.
It used to be.
So that responsibilty also has to be at
why, you know, I don't think that anybody, you know, has even asked the IG motorway police that, you know, sir, where were you? What action you have taken? You know, everything, oh, we have set up an inquiry, matter is being inquired, notice is being taken. Sir, this is all rubbish, and people are now sick and tired of these words, you know. It doesn't mean anything until and unless it is result-oriented. And you have to show us with record, so far, how many inquiries, you know, were result-oriented, and as a result of those, whether those inquiries were published, and as a result of those inquiries, what action exactly was taken. Until and unless you satisfy and you know, the people at large with results of those inquiries, and then as a result of those, you know, the punishment to those people, those who were responsible, then otherwise, you know, you cannot claim these things that it is only an eyewash. Eyewash and, you know, smoke screen. All these words, you know, suit this situation.
Right. Ji, Asim Saab, I hope that you've been hearing what Arif Chaudhry Saab has been saying. Ji, can you hear me?
I missed a part of it, but I could get the whole picture, what he was up to. Yes, it is true that justice system is one of the pillars of the society, and we should, as a Pakistani, we should have worked on it years before. Now we have a plan, but unfortunately, when we had a government, when we took the government, there were a lot of economic problems, and then there was Corona. Now we have get over with Corona, alhamdulillah, and yes, it is on the table that we have to bring out police reforms, and we have to some legislative reforms as far as judicial systems are concerned, and some cosmetics also. It needs to be reformed, and a major surgery is required. I agree with him. Yes, we have to work on our justice system if we have to bring peace in the society. Otherwise, these issues will keep on occurring as they had been occurring in the past. So, as far as reform and judiciary are concerned, it is I totally agree with him, and we have